Making money online has never been this popular. From digital products to remote work and AI-powered tools, everyone seems to be chasing income in the digital space. But here's the real question. Are these opportunities actually sustainable, or are most people just following trends without understanding the system behind them? In this episode, we'll break down how digital money really flows in online business, what separates smart earners from risky players, and how you can avoid common traps that silently drain your income.
The psychology behind paying later. To understand why pay later systems are so effective, we must look beyond finance and into psychology. Human decision-making is not purely rational. It is shaped by emotion, perception, and cognitive shortcuts. Pay later is engineered to align perfectly with these vulnerabilities.
One of the most powerful mechanisms at play is temporal discounting. Humans naturally value immediate rewards more than future consequences. A benefit received today feels more real and emotionally satisfying than a cost scheduled weeks or months ahead. Pay later leverages this bias by separating pleasure from pain. The pleasure of owning, using, or experiencing something is immediate, while the discomfort of payment is postponed. Another mechanism is choice architecture. When pay later appears alongside other payment methods, often highlighted as the easiest or most flexible option, it subtly nudges users toward it. This is not coercion, but design persuasion. The system does not force a decision, it simply frames one choice as more attractive than the others. There is also the illusion of financial maturity. Being approved for pay later creates a sense of trust and validation. Users feel recognized as financially capable, even when the approval criteria are minimal. This psychological boost can encourage further spending, reinforcing the cycle. In combination, these factors create an environment where borrowing feels natural, controlled, and emotionally rewarding. The danger lies not in ignorance, but in how seamlessly desire is aligned with deferred responsibility. The shifting meaning of affordability. Traditionally, affordability was simple. If you had the money, you could buy it. If you did not, you waited. Pay later disrupts this logic. Affordability becomes less about current financial capacity and more about future assumptions. When users choose pay later, they are implicitly betting on their future income. They assume stability, consistency, and predictability. This assumption is rarely examined. Income is treated as guaranteed, even though economic reality is often uncertain. This shift has profound implications. It encourages spending based on optimism rather than evidence. It also reduces sensitivity to risk. When future income is taken for granted, debt feels harmless. Yet economic disruptions, job instability, and unexpected expenses can quickly expose the fragility of this model. Affordability, once grounded in reality, becomes speculative. The present self consumes, while the future self is expected to handle the consequences. This internal division creates tension, especially when reality fails to match expectation. Pay later and the fragmentation of financial awareness. One of the most subtle impacts of pay later is how it fragments financial awareness. Expenses are no longer experienced as a single outflow of money. They are scattered across time, platforms, and notifications. Users may have multiple pay later providers, each with its own app, schedule, and reminders. Individually, each obligation feels manageable. Collectively, they're difficult to track. This fragmentation makes it harder to grasp one's true financial position. Budgeting becomes reactive rather than proactive. Instead of planning expenses in advance, users respond to reminders as they appear. Financial management turns into a series of micro-responses rather than a coherent strategy. Over time, this can erode confidence. Users may feel constantly busy managing payments, yet unsure whether they are truly in control. Financial anxiety does not always come from lack of money. It often comes from lack of clarity. Socioeconomic implications beyond the individual. While pay later is often discussed at the individual level, its broader socioeconomic implications are equally important. When large segments of a population rely on deferred payment for everyday consumption, patterns begin to shift. Consumer spending may increase in the short term, fueling economic activity. However, this growth is supported by debt rather than income. Over time, households become more financially fragile. A minor disruption can have cascading effects. There's also the risk of inequality reinforcement. Those with stable income can use pay later strategically, while those with unstable income may rely on it out of necessity. The same tool produces different outcomes depending on context, potentially widening existing gaps. Furthermore, pay later providers collect vast amounts of behavioral data. Spending habits, repayment behavior, and consumption patterns are monitored and analyzed. This data is used to refine algorithms, increase engagement, and optimize profit. The system learns how to encourage more borrowing, more frequently, more subtly. In this sense, pay later is not just a financial product. It is part of a larger data-driven economy where behavior itself becomes a resource. Regulation, responsibility, and the question of protection. One of the challenges surrounding pay later is regulatory ambiguity. These services often exist in the space between traditional credit and digital payment platforms. As a result, consumer protections may be weaker or inconsistent. Interest rates, late fees, and penalties are sometimes minimized in marketing, but become significant when payments are missed. Because the initial amounts are small, users may underestimate the consequences of default. There is also the question of informed consent. Are users fully aware of the risks, or are they guided toward optimism? Transparency exists, but it is often buried in terms and conditions that few read carefully. Responsibility becomes diffuse. Providers emphasize user choice, while users trust the system's design. In this gap, accountability becomes unclear. The result is a financial environment where risk is normalized but not fully understood. Redefining success, ownership, and value. Perhaps the most profound impact of pay later is philosophical. It reshapes how success and value are perceived. Ownership becomes detached from financial readiness. What matters is not whether something is earned, but whether it is accessible. This shift aligns with a broader cultural trend where experience and appearance are prioritized over long-term stability. The present moment dominates decision-making. The future is acknowledged but abstract. In such a culture, restraint is reframed as deprivation. Saving is seen as delay. Patience feels outdated. Pay later fits seamlessly into this worldview, offering a way to bypass discomfort without appearing irresponsible. Yet value, when separated from effort and timing, can lose meaning. When everything is available instantly, nothing feels truly earned. This subtle erosion of value affects not only finances, but identity and satisfaction. Is a balanced digital financial culture still possible? Despite these concerns, pay later is not inherently destructive. It can be useful when applied consciously. The challenge lies in balance. A healthy digital financial culture would treat pay later as a tool, not a default. It would emphasize education alongside access, clarity alongside convenience. Users would be encouraged to see the full picture, not just the installment. This requires effort from multiple sides: platforms that prioritize transparency, regulators that adapt to new models, and individuals willing to pause before tapping confirm. Most importantly, it requires a cultural shift, a reevaluation of what it means to afford something, to deserve something, and to wait. The cost we rarely calculate. Pay later does not demand recklessness. It thrives on normal behavior. It asks for small compromises, repeated often. Over time, these compromises reshape habits, expectations, and values. The true cost of pay later is not always measured in money. It is measured in mindset, in how we relate to time, desire, and responsibility, in how easily we trade future stability for present comfort. The question facing this generation is not whether pay later will disappear. It will not. The question is whether awareness can keep pace with convenience, because the most dangerous debt is not the one we fear, but the one we no longer recognize.